Hey, welcome back to week 2 of The Dream. My name is Jacob, and I am so glad you're here for group this week. I hope that last week gave you some insight for what we've got coming up during the session this week. And speaking of last week, if you felt like you spent the whole time talking during the discussion, well, you probably did. Just kidding. But seriously though, if you're anything like me, then you hate silence. Silence is good. It gives people time to think and process what we are talking about. So if this is you, maybe wait a few extra seconds this week to see if anyone else is going to jump in and say something. We want everyone to participate in the discussion, and by all means, do not feel like you can't share. Maybe just pause and let someone else give it a shot first. Or maybe it's the opposite, where you showed up last week and didn't say anything. Let's change it up and say something this week. Someone may need to hear what it is that you have to say, so this week we're going to throw a few softball questions at you in this session, so be sure to take a swing at those. The bottom line is that we truly believe that every voice is valuable in the discussion, and we're better as a whole for having everyone contribute to the conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy what Pastor Derek has to share during this session of The Dream. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and pause the video real quick to read Genesis 37, 18-36, and Genesis 39 before we turn it over to Derek for this week's teaching.
Thank you and welcome back to week 2 of The Dream. Our reading today is an incredible example of the fact that every God-given dream will face setbacks and adversity. Those are internal circumstances and external circumstances outside of us. You know, Abraham waited 25 years for his son Isaac to be born. Moses waited 40 years in the desert before he delivered God's people from Egypt. Jesus waited 30 years to start his ministry that ultimately changed eternity for all of us. I know in my life I had to wait to pursue my dream. I felt the call to ministry long before I ever got to serve. There was a 3 or 4 year period where I had to go through some refining. I had to change. It got even more interesting. I actually got to live out my dream as a pastor and then had to walk away. Fortunately, God gave me another opportunity to live that out, but it was a windy path. When we look at Joseph's life, his dream was delayed. In Genesis 37, you read how Joseph's brothers became jealous and faked his death and then sold him into slavery. Joseph's dream predicted his brothers would bow down to him. His brothers bowed down all right to look at him at the bottom of the well. This wasn't according to the dream. Yet Joseph thrived in slavery. He quickly rose to the top of Potiphar's household. Maybe his noble position, even as a slave, would have been worthy of honor until, of course, he was accused of dishonoring Potiphar's wife and found himself in prison. Maybe you've been sold out. Maybe you've been betrayed and accused by family. Maybe you've been derailed by those who are the closest to you. Let's be honest. It's hard to dream when you're feeling sorry for yourself. It's hard to dream when things are looking down more than they are up. When many people hit a roadblock, they begin to play those old tapes in their heads. Who do you think you are? You're never going to amount to anything. What gives you the right? Doesn't this sound familiar? That's not God's voice. God gave you the dream, but we have an enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Despite your setbacks, regardless of the obstacles life might throw your way, keep hold of your dream. People around you may not believe in you, but God believes in you. Keeping the dream alive is hard when there's no sign of life. Joseph's dream weren't dashed just once, but twice. Build a belief that's not based on circumstances. In this case, seeing is not believing. You have to focus on controlling what you can within your ability and trust God for the rest. Use your setbacks to prepare for what God has for you. You are not forgotten. You have not been abandoned. It's just not your time yet. In Genesis 40, we see how Joseph finally caught a lucky break. His fellow prisoners, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, both had dreams, and they went to Joseph for interpretation. The cupbearer received good news about his release in just 3 days. The baker's dream didn't mean great things for him, so it didn't really turn out all that well. Joseph saw an opportunity to get his dream back on track. He asked the cupbearer in Genesis 40, 14 through 15. It says, "And please remember me, and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to the Pharaoh, so that he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it." Sure enough, the cupbearer was released 3 days later. But in his exuberance of embracing his fulfilled dream, the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. In Genesis 40:23, it says, "The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him." Then, almost as a footnote, Genesis 41 opens with these words, "When 2 full years had passed." 2 years. The path to Joseph's dream did not appear to be the path to success. Slavery, imprisonment, and now 2 more years. That was 13 years of waiting. You might ask yourself, why all the waiting? Why all the setbacks? What Joseph can't see is the correct timing for his elevation in the Egyptian government. To fast forward the story, Joseph essentially becomes the prime minister of Egypt and has the ability to help his family during a future famine. Joseph was not promoted for his own sake. Joseph's promotion came at the exact time when his family needed him. And as you know, Joseph's family isn't any ordinary family. Jesus is a descendant of Joseph's family. The salvation of the world was at stake. Bethel Music has a song called "Take Courage." I'm not going to sing for you right now, but I'll read it to you. It says, "So take courage, my heart. Stay steadfast, my soul. He is in the waiting. He's in the waiting. And hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing. He's never failing." Joseph waited 13 years to see his dream fulfilled. Abraham, 25. Moses, 40. Jesus, 30. If you're waiting for the fulfillment of your dream, you're in good company. Here's the takeaway. Setbacks can become the refining moments where our faith becomes real. And how do we survive and thrive in the midst of challenge and setbacks? By doing what we discussed in week 1 and then walking daily with the Lord. Hey, thanks for being here. We love you guys. We are so glad you're here. I hope you have a great group discussion. We'll see you next time.